Caleb Tiernan, offensive tackle from Northwestern. Now, Brian, the first thing I do is I look up the games that they played, the people that they played against, and what size they are.
Yeah.
Brian Tiernan got some good little size on him, Brian. And that excited me because I'm trying to get away from these 300-pound offensive linemen, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Tiernan got some 6'7" to him, got some 320, 325 to him. The combine gonna let us know what it really is, but Caleb Tiernan got some real good size on him. So I was really excited about that. Watching him in his stance, he got some good arm length to him. So that's a cool thing too, but we're gonna wait on them numbers. I think he's solid as a job doer, but he doesn't stand out. That's my first line. He's solid as a job doer, but he doesn't stand out. He's gonna do his job, Brian. I wouldn't call him technically refined, but he's a guy that's gonna get in somebody's way, and it's gonna be just that. There's a lot of holes in his game that I'm about to poke, Brian, but it is what it is. I think his hands are decent. I think his hands kind of fall in the right place sometimes. I think he's patient with his hands. I see a cool little, if you get up on me, I can switch up under and replace and, kind of fight and get him back in the right spot. I feel like he was cool with doing that, and I think he was decent picking up on stunts and gap exchange and stuff like that. But boy, Brian, as I start to poke holes in him, also too, he's a cool help guy and he looks for work. I think that's cool. But as I start to poke holes in him, Brian, there were many times I see him, whether it's run blocking or pass blocking, his feet just stop moving. You can't have it. As an offensive lineman, you can't stop your feet. Also, too, Brian, he get real tall. And the problem with that is he kind of tall already. You know what I'm saying? So he needs to have a little extra effort into like bending his knees a little bit. But Brian, this was the biggest one for me. And I hope I'm wrong about this and you tell me I'm a little different here. I don't use the L word and the S word lightly, as lazy and soft. I don't like to use those words about these players because they play a tough game, but sometimes you ain't got no other way to describe it or whatever. So to keep from saying the S word about this character, he doesn't really physically impose himself on people to be that size, and that pissed me off. I think he catches a lot. I don't think he has a good punch to him. I want him to strike and, tactically lean on people with his 325-pound body, Brian. But sometimes he'll lean just because he's bending at the waist. Sometimes he doesn't strike. Sometimes he waits until somebody invades his personal space. I think he would benefit from learning a quick set and just kind of activating his hands a little, faster, Brian. But he lets guys get to him and they get in his chest and they kind of control him a little bit. And dog, you too big to be letting smaller people control you a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So, Brian, I wasn't a big fan of Caleb Tiernan. I think he's a project guy. I wish he was a little more physical, and that'll really drop an offensive lineman down my board. And I put traits guys in the 4th round, so I think Caleb Tiernan is kind of going to go there for me.
Yeah, I don't. I think you once again have got an accurate description of the player. I think he is more of a shield down block guy than he is coming off the ball and hammer you. And you talked about hand placement and punch and all that and lack of. It's clear with this guy. I mean, he will start out in some really good football position with his knee bend and his body position. And then the longer he has to go in the block, you will see him tend to get out of whack. And I mean, he can stand on his feet and recover because he's an athlete. He doesn't look 325 pounds on tape. He does not look that type of a build. And I do think there's some light-footedness to his game. Yeah. But I think he's just more of a try and stay in position, try and shield, and you mentioned about getting work.
Yep.
He will try and get the second and the third block, the effort and all that, ball going away. I watched the Michigan game, the Oregon game, Penn State game, and you see him trying. You see him trying to get those blocks. But there were times for a light-footed guy, they'd run this screen and he couldn't get out there to get the block.
Yep.
So he's a guy that initially in the process, we talked about him or the Pro Football Focuses and the Dane Bruglers and those guys had this guy as a very, very high player. I agree with your assessment of where he's at. I'm not particularly high as I look for him on the board. I do have him in the 3rd round, but it's closer to a 138, 139 than it is to a 130. I think there's I don't want to ride the fence on it, but I think he's bottom of the third round. I think you might have him absolutely right in the fourth round. I was not overly impressed. I was impressed with, some of the athletic ability stuff, but I wasn't impressed with the power or anything else that lead me to believe. I didn't see a guy that just could drive people off the ball or stay in position for any length of time. Yeah. And when he had to, he kind of had to recover, and the athletic ability allowed him to do that.
Somebody gonna take him in day 2 because of O-line tax, though. It's gonna happen, but I'm not.
Yeah, there's these guys we've talked about. The Freelands, the Dunkers, those kinds of guys. I actually talked to Brian Baldinger from the NFL Network yesterday, and Baldy was he was at the Senior Bowl, and I asked him about Dunker, and I said, Baldy, where do you got Dunker from Iowa? And he says, I like the kid. I don't think he's a tackle. I think he's a guard. And I know some people are talking about him. I have him listed as a tackle myself. I do. I think he's got, in the Senior Bowl, he showed he can play, and you watch the Iowa tape, he can play. But Baldy thinks with his body type that he might be better suited to play as a guard. Again, that's just one man's opinion. He does a lot of work. He goes to these all-star games. He does film work. So maybe some NFL people, we got these tackles, but maybe some of them we're going to transition over, and we'll see him playing guard some.
Yeah, for sure, bro. I mean, we'll see. We'll see, but
yeah, we'll see.
There's
Absolutely.
a lot of up and down on Dunker. I think Dunker's a better tackle than Tiernan is. You know what I mean? So
no, I actually have him above him. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just that. And I see some people got Dunker in the late third or whatever. So I thought that was odd, but whatever. Brian,
you have him as a 2, right? Don't you have him in that?
I got Dunker as a 2 at guard. At tackle, he might be like a 3 for me. But
see, you're ahead of the game. I mean, and the reason why I brought that up is because I remembered you were talking about him playing guard, and I asked, like I say, Brian Baldinger studies his stuff. It's another man's opinion, but I just kind of wanted to maybe get it confirmed. I mean, hell, VOCH is onto something here. I mean, when enough people who study this tell me, like, no, this guy's a guard, Brian. This guy's a guard. I'm like, okay, well, damn, I'm not going to be that stubborn, but there's people really working at this. And if you're telling me he's a guard, then I believe what you're saying.
Just for context, I would have Dunker. If Dunker was a tackle on my board, he would be after Lomu so Lomu's my last second-round player. Dunker would be my first third-round tackle as a tackle. At guard, he's my first guard. He'll be the best guard in this class, in my opinion. And I would have him over Prignon and Ione.